Hello, welcome to Mrs. Moriarty's art room. Today we're going to go over color theory just a bit and color mixing with the primary colors. Just to talk a little bit about the primary colors. In the art world, the primary colors are red, blue, and yellow. You might also hear the primary colors as being more of a cyan, yellow, and magenta. Those are the colors you might find in a printer. And those colors do produce the more vivid colors in the color wheel. So if you're looking for a really bright green, you're going to want to use the cyan and the yellow. But in the art world, the terms are still the primary colors for color mixing with paint. And this has nothing to do with light. With paint is red, blue, and yellow. So here in Mrs. Moriarty's art classroom, we have primary colors, but we also have warm and cool colors. Versions of the primary colors. So we have a warm red and a cool red, a warm yellow and a cool yellow, and even a warm blue and a cool blue. And the difference is the warm red has a more orangey tone to it, and the cool red has a cooler tone to it. And same with the yellow. The warm yellow has more of a yellow-orange look to it, and the cool yellow is cooler. So we're going to start by just mixing colors and creating a color wheel. I have my colors laid out just on a plate to mix, okay? And then I have my cool yellow, I have my cool red, and I actually have a cool blue, which is a phthalo blue. So this is the blue that I'll be using, a phthalo blue, because it's the closest to a cyan blue we can get for our purest colors. And I can show you the difference by mixing cyan, like a phthalo blue, and a yellow versus this cool blue and yellow together, the difference. So, materials we're going to need. I have my palette knife for mixing paint. If you don't have a palette knife, you can use a craft stick, okay? I have different kinds of brushes here that I'll be using throughout our painting projects. We'll be using different kind of brushes, but I just wanted to kind of introduce you to them. We have bristle brushes. They're natural haired brushes, and they're very stiff and coarse, and they're good for laying out and blocking in color. You have another natural brush, but it's a sable brush, so it's softer. This is good for both watercolor and acrylic. And then you have synthetic brushes, which are just man-made, and these are really good for detail and for smoother areas. So for what we're going to be doing today, I'm going to be using more of the synthetic brushes because we're going to be applying really like light, flat, even color tone. We don't want too much texture, where the bristle brushes, you might get more texture. So I'm going to put those away and just use my synthetic brushes. I have palette paper to mix my paint. I'm just going to start by showing you the difference when I mix cyan and yellow and the other blue that I have. Now when mixing paint, it's important to start with the lighter color. So instead of adding rather yellow to the blue to lighten it, I'm going to add blue to the yellow, and that will save paint in the long run. So I always start with a lighter color that I'm going to be mixing. And when you grab your paint, it's important too not to grab, put your brush or your palette knife in the center of the paint. That could taint your paint, and we don't want to taint our paint. I'm just going to take it from the edge, and I'm always going to take less of the darker color for obvious reasons, because you don't need as much as darker. So if I was trying to make a green, okay, and over your color wheel, you can look at what colors make what. So the green is between the blue and the yellow on the color wheel in order to make the green. Just to show you the difference, when I mix the cyan and the yellow, I get a nice vivid light green. If I wanted it darker, I would add more blue. If I wanted it lighter, I would start, instead of adding again yellow to this to make it lighter, I would start with the yellow off to the side, and then I would add a little bit of this to make it lighter, and that will just save paint in the long run. So when I'm mixing paint, I'm just smushing it down, scooping it, smushing, scooping, and that will mix it thoroughly for you. So that's the cyan blue. Always have paper towels on hand to clean off brushes, to clean off your palette knife as you're working. This is the ultra marine blue. And if I take some yellow and mix up a green with this, just take a little bit of this blue, I can already see the difference. You can see it, but it's a lot muddier. It's not as vibrant, and it's darker. You can kind of see. There's an obvious difference. Let's get this a little closer between the two colors. When you're using the cyan, it's much brighter, much more vivid. And that's the same that, with if you're making any other colors that you would use blue. If you use cyan and cool red, you're going to get a brighter blue, brighter purple or violet, rather than if you use an ultra blue and a warm red, which might get a little bit muddier. Okay, so you will be doing a color wheel, and here are just some tips when painting the color wheel. There's lots of different versions of color wheels out there. One example. Okay. This one here. Okay. And when you're mixing your colors, we want to work on neatness, staying inside the lines for this project in particular. And you want to make sure when you're mixing up your colors, there's a good variety of colors. So your yellow-green should be different than your green, and your blue-green should be different than your green. So you want to make sure that there's a nice variety of colors on the color wheel. So since I already have green started, I'm just going to kind of demo painting and some tips for painting. So if I'm painting a flat triangle or a rectangle, I'm going to use a flat tip brush. Okay, so this one actually has a little bit of a beveled edge. You have a round brush. Brushes come in all different shapes and sizes. Brights, filberts are rounded on the edge. This is an angled brush. So I'm just going to use a nice flat brush. So I'm going to dip my brush in the paint, and I'm just going to get it so it's coated on both sides, back and forth. Okay. This looks more like a yellow-green, so I'm going to paint it in the yellow-green spot. And when I'm painting, I want to make sure, in order to stay in the lines, an easy way to paint is not the edge of the brush this way, but rather tip to the edge. So I'm going to paint the tip of the brush here, and I'm just going to try to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to paint along the edge this way, and then I'm going to pull the paint back into the shape. I'll grab some more paint, getting it evenly coated on both sides. You don't want the paint goopy on the brush. So it's the tip to the edge and then just pull backwards into the shape. If you try to paint with the side of the brush this way, you might have paint that smushes out where you don't want it. I'm just going along the edge and get all that extra paint on my brush. I can then paint the inside easier. So neatness counts for this exercise here, creating the color wheel. So then when I go to create my green, I want a nice difference. So this is a nice yellow-green. So in order to make my green, I'm just going to add more of the cyan blue color to my green that I have mixed up here. So I'll take my cyan, I'll take some of this green, I'll mix them together until I get a green color. So that's a nice green. And when I go to do my blue-green, I'll take a little bit of this green, add more, lift this up. Sorry, don't want to make anybody sick here. I'll take more of my blue paint, and I'm just going to mix more blue. So there's a nice obvious change between the yellow-green, the green, and the blue-green. Blue-green should look a lot more blue, and the yellow-green should look a lot more yellow. And then that's the same thing for yellow-orange, and red-orange, and blue-purple, purple, and red-purple. So, okay? So now I'll go smush and I'll take some of this pure green, just the regular green, and I'll paint it. Tip to the edge, tip to the edge. Nice. Take your time. I'll continue just rotating my paper around so it's more comfortable getting that paintbrush to the tip of the paper, tip to the edge. And then I'll go, you clean your brush off, but you really don't have to because I'm using the same colors. All the same colors are on my brush. Just going back and forth. Again, we're not getting the paint all goopy in the metal part. This is the ferrule of the part. You don't want to get the paint all goopy inside of there, because our brushes should last a long time to come. We want to treat them nice, and if the paint gets all goopy in there, it's hard to get the paint out when we're cleaning it. And then the blue-green, again, tip to the edge, and then pull backwards into the shape. Rotate this around. Tip to the edge and pull backwards. And then when I get to my blue color here, I can just go right around the color wheel. I'm just going to use the pure blue. That's cyan blue that we've been using. And then I'll continue going around my entire color wheel. So that's the color wheel. In the next video I'm going to be recording is how to blend colors in order to make a color ribbon, using all of the colors in the color wheel, how to blend colors.